Welcome to one of Maximizer's hidden gems, the customer service module. Years ago, the customer service module was created to capture and resolve customer complaints. This was all done as part and parcel of designing Maximizer to be a single repository of all your customer information, from tracking your contacts to tracking sales opportunities and tracking customer care. To give you an example of how the CS module works, let's pretend that Sam Jones over here is a long-standing customer of mine. He called me with a complaint that there had been damage to some of the product I had recently sent to him. So I went to his record over in the address book. I brought up his name and decided that I would start a new customer service case. I could do that by clicking on Actions, Create a Case, or over here in the far right, I could scroll down and create a case down here, or I could even click on the Customer Service tab following window, and I could click over here to create that case. Well, let me drop back over to the Customer Service module and show you what I did. Here's the case I created. When I click on it, Maximizer opens it up for me and takes me to my details. And I see that this case was damaged in shipment. I'm going to change my key field list to my default key fields for this one. Click on the button here to edit this case and show you what I had to do. Everything that's marked in red is a mandatory field, so I have to fill that out. My first one is the subject, and I picked from a drop-down list here, damaged in transit. This is an editable list. When I bring it up, I have the opportunity to add other items to characterize whatever it might be that's a subject of a particular customer service case. It saves me having to type it out, and at some point, I may want to search for cases that have that particular title. Similarly, the description field here, I can search against description field, so I may want to be careful what I put in here because I can search for words in it. But what I really want to mention is that the description field should be filled out as completely as possible so that if I'm out of the office for any reason and somebody else has to pick up this case on my behalf, they get a real quick look at what the key elements are of this case. Then I went through and filled out the other fields that are here for me to take care of. And once I was done, I clicked Save to be able to put it up here into the main window for my customer service cases. And then when I click on my button up here, that takes me back over to Sam in the address book. And I'll mention that if Sam had not already been here, Maximizer would have brought him into this main controlling window so I could have seen Sam and also the company that he works for. Now when I go back to the tabbed customer service window for Sam, I get to look at the cases I've got with him. And in this situation, I notice that I've got 3 cases that are related to damaged in shipment. Okay, once I can ignore 2, I start to sit up in my chair, but 3, that's when I accept the reality of the information coming to me, namely, I have a problem. Perhaps on my shipping floor, perhaps at my customer's receiving end, or perhaps with whoever is doing the actual shipping. I may not know the answer yet, but I do know that I'm going to find out and stop the bleeding. So I open the case, which takes me back over, of course, to the customer service module. Then I go over to the activities window and I create a task. I click on the taskbar here and I create a task, which in this case I said, check on why the damage. Once I created that task, and I could just bring it up to show you what it looks like, just the normal hot list task window that you work with. I put a September 18th date ahead on it, check on why the damage and so on, kept it assigned to me for the moment, and I clicked OK. Once I did that, it was logged here in the activities window for the case in the customer service module. It is also over here in my hot list window. Let me flip to that for a moment. And there it is in my hot list window. And then when I go over to my address book, it's over here in my activities window in my address book as well. And there it is, check on why the damage. Now that's a typical use of the CS module. Capture the complaint information a customer is sending to you. And I think you can see how listening in this case can have a very positive effect on your business. The customer service tab following window allows me to see at a glance any cases that relate to that customer, whereas the customer service module over here allows me to look across my whole database. So for example, perhaps this is my current caseload. All of these here are my current cases that are currently assigned to me, Bayard Wood. And you know what? I can sort by any column in here. I can perform searches against them. I can do all the things that you would expect I would be able to. And that's another thing, by the way. All these drop-down menus here are very, very similar to what you see over in the address book window. Now let's go back to the address book. Click on Sam, come down to his customer service window, and click on one of the damaged in shipment cases that he has. Suppose that even with my best efforts, I cannot resolve the issue. Well, I can click on this button right here, and I can assign this case to, let's say, Christina, for example. Make some notes in here if I need to let her know why I'm assigning it to her. I can notify the assigned user, which is Christina, by email. I can notify the address book entry, Sam, by email that the case has been reassigned. And finally, I can create a hot list task for myself to check on this issue. I click OK, and those elements are taken care of. Now, it may be that Christina can't resolve it, and perhaps this needs to be escalated to management. I click on this button here, and let's say that I escalate it to Ian. Now it's indicated as escalated. I can have notes here. Again, I can notify the user, who is Ian, that the case has been escalated. Can ignore myself. If I want to, I can notify the address book entry that this has happened, and that might be important, so let me just click it. And again, create a hot list task for myself to check on this issue. If the case is finally resolved, I can click on this button here. I here have an opportunity to identify everything that was involved with the case, including any solution notes that might be useful if a similar case comes up in the future. As you will have noticed, it may be possible to have a billing type of situation here. If it's chargeable, I can assess the billing time in hours and the fees that are associated with this as well. And once I finish my solution notes, I can create a draft knowledge base article from the solution notes and link it to this case. One other very important aspect of customer service cases is the monitoring function. I can come down here and click on monitoring, which brings up this kind of a dialog box, which is identical to the dialog box I get from clicking Edit Case Monitoring. You'll notice that I can decide not to monitor this case, or I can use the system default case monitoring user list, which has been set up like this, and I'll show you where, or I can use a custom list below, and when I click there, anybody who's a licensed user in Maximizer can be added to this list and in effect becomes the default case monitoring user list. If I decide I don't want Luis to be part of this monitoring group, I can click delete and remove him from that list. I'll cancel out of that. From here in Administration and Administrator, I can again control who can monitor a case. I go to Customer Service and I go to Monitoring. If I click on Select Users for Case Monitoring, I get essentially the same kind of a situation available to me here as you saw me use with Edit, Case Monitoring, or clicking on the Case Monitoring button inside the case itself. Back in the address book, I can click on Preferences, Other Preferences, and Monitoring to control the rules about what can be monitored. I make my selection for Customer Service. And notice this, I want my people who are monitoring customer service cases to receive monitoring notification on note changes and on field changes, because I've checked both those boxes. I can have all fields monitored, or I can click on that button and this ellipsis button here to choose only those basic fields or those user-defined fields that I think are important to be monitored. Finally, the system administrator can control the choices for the various elements in the default key fields list. Again, from here in Customer Service Preferences, I can click on Fields, and I can modify the billing type, accepting what's there or adding a new value. I can do the same thing for the subject. Remember, that's an editable list in the Customer Service module, but I can also add new values here. Case origin, queue, reason, status, type, all of these things over in the address book are what I have over here, and over here again in the administrator module is where I can affect the values that are available to me there. And then finally, from system fields, I can modify the categories and the products and services that over here again in Maximizer I can look at here for each of my customer service cases. Those are the highlights in how to use the customer service module to create customer service cases. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.